Hello. This video is a combination of the conclusion of E and an introduction to Module F. Okay? Yeah, I think that's the right way. What we have learned in the Module D is how corporations make decisions as to how much to produce, right? And we did a little bit of the economics in here, and one of the things I wanted to quickly point out here is as the amount of production that happens, right? Then your cost structure has changed. First of all, let's just draw a little bit on the board here. Quantity being on this axis, this is be the quantity that you are producing. Okay. I hope that shows up. I'm going to use black to start with. Okay, so we have quantity here, and then we have price per unit. Now, the first thing that I wanted to quickly point out is fixed costs. Fixed costs don't change regardless of how much you make, right? So the more you make, the more that fixed cost gets spread out. So our fixed cost will always look something like this. This is our average fixed costs. Is that black on, right? What we see is the larger the N, the larger the quantity you make, the smaller the average cost is for each of those products for the fixed cost part, because you've taken those fixed costs and amortized them over a much larger number of products. As your quantity goes down, your fixed costs haven't changed, so your average per item goes up, right? So we have the average fixed cost. Other than average fixed cost, we have variable costs, average variable costs. Okay. So variable costs vary based upon how much you're producing, right? And typically what we will see is that average variable costs do something like that, okay? Why does it do something like that? Because initially we get economies of scale, all right? It costs us less when we produce more. We can buy our products in greater quantities. Okay, we can go to Sam's Club instead of the local dollar store, and we can get lower and lower and lower and lower prices. So as we produce more and more products, the costs start going down. And then we start seeing something else. We start seeing that prices will eventually go up. Okay? At this point, we have used up all of our resources here in Kingsville, and we need to start looking to get our resources from farther away. Let's say we need to go to Corpus or San Antonio or even Houston, and it becomes more and more expensive for us to do that, especially if you have to take into account travel costs and so on and so forth. So we get to a point where our average costs actually go up, okay? And then if we add the two of them together, we will have, okay, the average. So if this is the, when we add them together, we will get the total, the average total. So the average total be the average of the fixed plus the average of the variable at that quantity, and we can draw that. So if we look at here, if we take this and we add that to it, we end up at this point. Here would be adding this, and adding that to this, bring us to that point. Okay, at this quantity here, we're adding this on top of that one, and we do this for every point. And we get something which is the average total cost. Okay. And then what we did was we superimposed on top of here this would be the marginal cost. And this falls where this is flat, this goes where this is flat. I didn't do a really good job of doing that, but we know that that is essentially the marginal revenue, right? In this section, in the one that just passed, we are interested in where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. This was actually the marginal cost line. What's the marginal revenue line? Well, if we are in a competitive market, the revenue we get is the going industry price. We, in a competitive environment, are a small player in a big pond. Okay, we do not influence what the industry's price is. We take that as a given, right? We are too small to influence it either up or down. So at the industry price, we can sell as much as we want, and we take that price as given. So if we put in here a price level, this is the industry price. This is where we stop producing. Why do we stop producing there? Because at that point, if producing any more costs us more than the price we will get for it, right? And our profits will go down. Anything lower than that in terms of quantity, we will continue to produce more because incrementally we're still making money by making one more product, right? Okay, so that's essentially how we made product decisions and production decisions in a competitive environment. That was the last module. The module we're going to get started now is going to be looking at situations where you're not in a competitive marketplace. And then specifically, we're going to start with the idea of you are in a monopoly environment. Well, in a monopoly environment, you are the industry, right? So what the industry's price is what you say it is, right? Okay, so we don't have a price that the industry has that we have no control over. We have control over whatever price we choose. Now, this basically says we can choose a price as high as we want, right? But the problem with choosing a price as high as we want is we don't have control over the customer, right? The customers still have a demand function. If we charge a high price, maybe there's not an awful lot of customers who will buy it at that price, right? If we charge a low price, there are many, many more customers who will buy it, right? So when we talk about, well, you have control over your price, that's absolutely true in a monopoly setting. But when we talk in a monopoly setting, okay, we don't have control over the customers. The customers still have control, right? So our situation is slightly different. So we have to create a marginal revenue curve, okay? Our marginal revenue curve says, okay, if I lower my price by 1 unit, How many customers more customers am I going to get? Okay, those customers I get at that price, what I lowered it to, okay, but I have to lower the profit that I make from all the other ones because I had lowered the price. And in this case, we are assuming that you cannot discriminate against customers, that if you have one price, you're going to have to charge everybody that same price. Okay, so that is the introduction to the chapters that are going on. Okay, later on we will make the introductions to other items, other industries where you are an oligopolist. There are a handful of firms like yours. Okay, in that realm, you can't just willy-nilly change your price, but as you change your price, you are influencing the industry because you are a significant part of the industry, right? And in that case, it becomes a game. It really becomes a game, and we introduce a concept called game theory. Okay, the other concept is one of slightly differentiated products, such as many restaurants, high-end restaurants. Okay, two high-end restaurants may not be exactly the same. Okay, if you go to Snoopy's, okay, it is a different feel, a different recipe set than if you go next door to Doc's over at out on Padre Island. The two restaurants are right next to each other. They both serve seafood, but they have completely different vibes. Okay, the way I describe those two restaurants to out-of-towners is, I say, typically, if I'm going somewhere with friends, I will go to Snoopy's for a very casual environment. If I am taking my in-laws, I'm probably taking them to Doc's, right? They're differentiated, but for what they do, they are monopolists. Doc's does not do what Snoopy's does, and Snoopy's doesn't do what Doc's do. Yet, if one gets too out of line, some customers will switch over, okay? Because the demand curve changes. And if Snoopy's prices go down, well, then the demand curve for Doc's restaurant is going to change. Again, it becomes a little bit of a game. All right, so those are the things to look forward to in the next chapters. But the chapter coming up has to do with how does a monopoly make these decisions. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed the last module, and I hope you enjoy this module, and I'll get back to you later. Bye-bye.